puts?
Everything is long contracts.
Oh,
As a
long.
rule, as a rule, if the price target is target or less, it usually means you want to buy them. If the price target is target or more, it usually means you want to sell them. I
Yeah,
can't
fair
think of a
enough.
reason. I can't think of a reason why you'd want to pay more for something you're buying.
I pay more for stocks I want to buy all the time. They keep going down. Turns
Oh,
out there was a sale.
thank you for your service.
Surprised people aren't chomping at the bit to talk about Dick's Sporting Goods.
What's there to say?
Wow, I'm sure you guys can come up with something. In terms of valuable discussion, though, there's tons of stocks with earnings out to be discussed. So let's see.
Hey Hardy, curiosity question for you. Have you found either your Gamma Max or Delta Neutral to be more reliable, or is it insignificant between the two?
Gamma Max has a higher win rate. Delta Neutral has bigger wins. Does
Thanks.
that make sense?
Makes perfect sense. Thank you.
Hello,
Hello.
can I speak?
Of course. What would you like to share with us?
Good morning. Is anyone there trading 0-day expiration options?
You came
Sure,
to the right
people do.
sub.
Why do you ask?
Because I want to learn how to trade there. It's gaining popularity.
Well, just because other people do it doesn't mean it's good to do. As a rule, though, we try to buy low and sell high. Oftentimes the reverse happens.
It's a great
Well,
way to go from having some money to no money very quickly, though. Highly effective.
It's a
We
really
always
good way
follow the herd.
It's also a really good way to make a small fortune, provided you started with a large one.
That's true too.
That's a good way to put it.
So what interests you in 0 DTEs? Are you just looking for the quick hit, or do you just
yes, like quick hit, easy money.
No
okay?
such
Well,
thing.
nothing easy about it.
Easy money's at the casino, bro.
Once you figure out the easy part, please come back and let us know.
I mean, the volume on those has been sustained for a little while now, right? Like, it's been in the news that people are using these quite often. So, like, are people just jumping off the diving board and hitting the empty swimming pool repeatedly, or there's just a lot of sacrificial lambs here? So there's a lot of bodies in the pool by now.
Well,
My money is the bodies on the pool.
just think of all the faces you used to see often that you don't see anymore. And then you can extrapolate where those faces might have gone to. Maybe they hit it rich and they're on their own personal island in the Bahamas, or maybe they're in the pool right now.
Do you want to talk about Silvergate and it do go down, or like what do we think? Down another 7% this morning, give or take?
Yeah, a lot
Forget
of
that.
the gang is trying to sell $3.50 puts against it. I'm staying far away because Silvergate is a bit of a ticking time bomb.
So is the
Sort of
fact
like
that
Credit
they're
Suisse.
is the fact that they're FDIC insured going to change anything about their financial concerns? Like, I'm
The
assuming we're not gonna...
FDIC insurance affects the deposits on hold with Silvergate under, I believe it's $250,000 per account. So hypothetically, the majority of individual depositors don't have to worry. The problem is Silvergate doesn't make money on deposits; they make money on flow. So receiving on the spread and interest rates. So receiving interest for loans they extend, and then paying some of that interest as yield on a savings account or deposit account. And that all works well and good until too many borrowers don't pay back their loans, at which point Silvergate is forced to dip into their own cash, which they have even less of nowadays, to ensure the depositors are kept whole. And the whole point of the FDIC is to assist Silvergate in their ability to make sure the depositors are made whole.
So what I was trying to get at, Hardy, and the answer is probably going to be no. Essentially, since it is a real bank, quote unquote, with FDIC insurance, the government's not going to step in and bail out Silvergate or anything.
They will bail out Silvergate in the sense that the deposit accounts will be seamlessly transitioned over to a new bank that paid the government however much money to receive those deposit accounts. A good demonstration of this is in a Netflix documentary called The G Word. And they give an acceptable overview on one function of the FDIC.
And I mean, it looks like Silvergate already received their bailout with this $3.5 billion loan from that savings and loan company. I feel like that was already their money. And if that's not enough to stymie the bleed, they might just let it go.
Well, with the Fed's funds rate of 5%, if a bank like this, if a company like Carvana doesn't go bust in this cycle and they somehow skate along, it'll be a real indictment of the whole natural selection process of capitalism.
Well, just look at the percentage of zombie companies, basically companies that have like a negative cash flow and just live bailout to bailout since the 07, 08 meltdown. The number climbs every single year. It's now like 1 in every 5 publicly listed companies are like, it's unclear how they're going to stay afloat. They're just waiting for something else, right?
But the trend line has to go down in the, as a consequence of the last 12 months, right?
Yeah, I mean, if the system was working as intended, yeah, there are companies that would be going bankrupt.
All right. Well, since we've talked about Silvergate quite some time, I'm going to try to get us talking about some different companies. And I'm just looking at, what companies posted earnings this morning. Brazil's Azul, I hope I'm pronouncing that right, is an airline. I was a little bit surprised. I mean, some of these figures might be incorrect because there's translation from Brazilian reals to US dollars, but it looks like their revenue was around 840 million to a market cap of 460 million. They jumped 20% roughly pre-market on earnings. But before you get all excited, that's just because even though they continue to lose money and they lost more money than they did before, they're starting to guide for profits in the near future. So maybe something interesting you guys might pick up. Sienna, how about pronouncing that as well, also shot up maybe around like 10-12% on good earnings this morning as well. And so those tickers are AZUL and CIEN. Any thoughts on those or those industries? Oh, sorry. Sienna is telecom.
There's one more, if I could add it to the list, that kind of was a surprise. IDEX Biometrics, the ticker symbol is IDBA. They were expecting minus 38 cents per share EPS, and they ended up being at 0. So it's a 38-cent surprise to the positive. Not moving much pre-market, but going to keep an eye on that one today as well. They do biometric sensors for access for security purposes.
Did you say IDBA?
India Delta Bravo Alpha, IDBA.
Oh yeah, there's not much going on right now.
Hey, if anyone's having a bad day out there, let me help you out real quick. I did a bunch of whippets on Saturday night and bought $2,500 in CTRX stock.
How's that going for you?
Currently changing my shirt from sweating.
Anybody here close positions based on the VIX? Or enter positions based on the VIX?
Interesting.
Because that's what I'm doing.
Hardy, does VIX impact your broader portfolio?
It does in the sense that I'll occasionally hedge using some sort of VIX leverage product, and that's only when volatility is exceedingly high.
Because for me, since the VIX dropped below 20, I'm closing on some positions just to not be over leveraged in case any other, let's say, black swan events happen or any other volatility in the market happens. So I'm just closing just for risk management purposes. So I'm just having 30% of my portfolio allocated max right now.
I think we're going to need to have a VIX too that computes the derivatives as well. Oh, just with the number of zero DTEs going on, right? It's actually now impacting the accuracy of the VIX on certain things, right? Because so many traders are now trading zero DTE options that it's actually there. There was an article that was posted a while ago about that suppressing the movement of the VIX. And so I'm just wondering, it's like at what point in time will someone come out with another indicator that includes that data in some fashion?
Well, for me, I just take the VIX averages, and that's how I make my plays. If it's above the average, I get a little bit more aggressive. If it's less of the average or below the average, I get more conservative. So a lot of people do the opposite of that, but anyway. But I would think with zero DTEs, that adds volatility.
It only adds volatility if it's unhedged and speculative, which is less and less the case today.
I think somebody posted a graph that it shows there's so far since the introduction of zero DTEs, the volume of zero DTEs have been increasing steadily. Is that a good thing?
Good for who?
For option buyers, because I would think it would add a little bit of volatility. But like Hardy said, it depends on how you use it.
That's what she said.
Well, what's interesting is the move index looks like for the month of February it just went straight up. And if you look at the CBOE VIX loading, I wonder if the correlation is broken down somewhat. Yeah, it's just like totally different. I think the VIX is getting suppressed. I mean, if you look at the latter part of February, it went up to 23, dropped back down like a rock. But the move index, which is the bond market volatility, just went straight up in February. So that kind of divergence is a bit odd.
I think somebody made a post about UVXY. Anybody looking at UVXY or buying any of the VIX-related products?
Not specifically, but I am looking at cash secured puts and SQQQ.
Yeah, I stopped trading volatility like a year ago because things just started getting wonky with it, and it wasn't until recently Human Genome shared a Barron's article about why that decorrelation is happening, and I've just not been I've not been trading it for almost a year now.
Yeah, Hardy, I don't know how you could trade the SQQQ. I mean, for me, it's scary.
I sell puts against it. It's the simple answer.
But you're not afraid of the. It has to be a small percentage of the portfolio, then not even a big chunk.
It's always a small percentage of my portfolio, but the weekly returns I'm getting on it, worthwhile relative to the risk. Especially now as we're approaching Gamma Max on SPY.
Okay. Anybody want to talk about Amazon closing 8 of its Amazon Go stores? I never thought that would have been a good model to begin with.
Amazon Go is the research arm as far as I'm concerned.
They're still investing heavily in retail stores, or at least they plan to. So I don't see that part of the business going away. I've been in Amazon Go. It's a really cool concept. Just maybe doesn't make sense to have like 30, 50, 100 cameras in the ceiling, as well as a security guard, when you could just have a cashier.
So here in Columbus, we have like one of the 2 Amazon clothing stores that they're currently piloting, and it's a wild experience. So you walk in there, and they have these outfits like pre-selected from different manufacturers, like all different manufacturers. They have fashion designers put together outfits. You just scan it with your phone, and then they just start bringing the outfits to you in the dressing room. So it's a pretty cool experience.
Is this meant to put Stitch Fix under?
I don't know. I just know I went there with the wife, and we spent a lot of money there. That's what I know. So they have a thing where you just scan these outfits, and then they bring them to you through this little double door changing room where like only one side of the door can open at a time, and the people on the floor just bring you the outfits until you find one you like.
It's like an airlock situation?
Yeah. I mean, sort of similar to that, right? Yeah, it's like, they slide it into the box, and you just try on the outfit. If you don't like it, you just get a different one.
Somewhere Jeff's watching you pull your pants down.
It reminds me it reminds me years ago, I went to this Amazon bookstore in New York City. It was really weird. It was like a bookstore that was ran by Amazon. I don't know if anyone remembers that.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was very similar to that, but with clothes. Like, that's the only way I can describe it. It was like curated lists of clothes that they give to you. So I don't know if that's going to impact big box clothing retailers, but it's an interesting model. I think it gets around the whole you can't try clothes on when you buy them on Amazon. They're trying to like figure out a way around that.
One day ship a dressing room.
Is anybody paying any attention to the country's latest, greatest railroad system of Norfolk Southern and the derailment they had on Saturday?
Yeah, so that turned out to not be toxic waste, but it's on the other side of Ohio from the previous derailment. So now derailments have happened on both sides of me. And that was originally thought to have toxic waste as well. Everyone freaked out. Turns out it's just a bunch of boxcars. No need to be concerned, other than the fact that it's another massive train derailment in like 2 weeks.
Maybe it's not a Norfolk Southern problem. Maybe it's something to do with Ohio.
Oh, it's definitely a Norfolk Southern problem, simply because an article I was reading said they've had like 5 derailments in the last however many months. So I didn't know if anybody was going to be keeping an eye on it, or if they had any ideas on what kind of plays to make on that. Because just watching the price of the stock, it doesn't seem to move very much when these things happen.
I was just going to say, I don't think that, especially it not being a chemical spill, is enough to move the needle. I wanted to talk about, if I can transition over to CrowdStrike. They report earnings today. I'm a shareholder. I'm looking at calls once I get off the road. I normally don't play earnings, but my read-through from the Palo Alto report, I don't know if you guys saw that, very positive forward guidance. I'm thinking that CrowdStrike is due for a bounce. I haven't looked at the implied volatility, but I wanted to see if any of you guys had any thoughts on CrowdStrike.
Yeah, I do. That's actually why I asked to come up today. So today it's actually up. It went as high as 5.75% increase today, and it's up about 30% since the start of the year. And like you said, with earnings coming out, I think we may see a bump for that. The reason for today's bump, I believe, is because there was a press release by CrowdStrike this morning that they're working with Dell on a new project. And so the plan that I've got, because I'm sitting on a load of shares myself, is I'm going to be doing covered calls for these for the next week, probably at a strike around 150, with the idea that I can get some pretty good premium in that today and not lose the shares in the process.
I'm on the road. I might have missed it. Did you say what the implied volatility was? Did anybody have that?
Oh, let me see if it's on here.
I mean, that's all right, man. Don't break your neck. I'm driving. I'll check in a little bit. I was just curious if you knew off the top of your head. I mean, I'm with you though with CrowdStrike. I think that they're due for a turnaround. You know, I know you said they're up 30% on the year. A lot of stocks have turned around on the year, but I unfortunately have a high cost basis on CrowdStrike, somewhere in the twos. I got to check when I get off the road, but I'm positive on them. I think that they're a good company, and I think that I look at Palo Alto as the leader in the group, but CrowdStrike is a strong number two.
Yeah. I mean, I worked there for 6 years, so I feel pretty comfortable with. I mean, I haven't worked there. I left there back in August, but over the last 6 months, I haven't seen anything that would convince me that their trajectory hasn't changed long term. I think they just got whacked by the interest rates at the end of the year, because they just, for 6 months straight, they went down from, I think most of the stuff I got was at that I was given was around 180 a share or something. So I think most of that's come from the interest rates increases over the last year, but now we're coming back from that.
Looking at the CrowdStrike options, March 10th, the calls are about 70 to 80% implied volatility, while the puts are about 160%. Just wondering why there's that discrepancy.
I don't understand that well enough to answer well, but I can say that the stock's been heading up. It's been very volatile. It's been one of the most volatile stocks for the last few months. In fact, what I've mostly been doing is trading, because I watch it so carefully. Mostly I've been doing covered calls when the old ones expire, and then do some credit debit swaps, depending on where it's traveled in the range in the last week or so, because it's been holding within a range of about $5 in each direction. And so it's been volatile. It's bouncing around within $5 of each direction with a trend towards the upside. So I'm going to say that's probably why volatility has been going up.
So shifting gears a little bit to a meme stock. Is anybody else in on Troika? TRKA? people have been shilling this thing like crazy. Like, it's very obvious that people are trying to pump this stock. I'm just wondering if anybody else is riding this wave.
That's funny. I saw that on TikTok. There's a chart monkey that I follow. It's as a kind of a laugh, and he's been pumping it from his beach chair from like 26 cents. I generally never trade under $20, but that's actually been moving.
Yeah, I've got basically a sentiment analysis NLP sort of bot that tells me when people are pumping different tickers, and it's been on there for like 3 weeks now. It's sort of sustained, which is kind of interesting. Normally these come and go a little bit quicker, so.
But what is this? It's a media company?
Yeah, I don't even know what the hell they do. I have no idea what they do. All I know is that the number of mentions on this across Reddit and StockTwits and Facebook is high. That's what I know. That's my
solid.
It must be some AI-driven marketing and content company or something.
What was the program that you used to track dimensions and everything?
I've got my own little thing that just scans using an NLP, like natural language processing, and then it just counts the number of mentions, right? That's all it's doing. It's just the total number of unique mentions per user. And then it adds it.
That's smart, man. I mean, you're ahead of me as far as that's concerned. I'm not really familiar with all that stuff. That's kind of above my pay grade, but that's definitely a good call if you're looking for patterns that start people to start trading certain stocks.
Are you guys ready for Jerome Powell's testimony tomorrow?
We can
Is
probably
anybody-
have a special talk to listen to it and discuss
Yeah,
it.
I thought he was talking today. Or is it tomorrow?
Tomorrow and Wednesday.
Tomorrow afternoon.
I'll just listen to it because tomorrow I gotta go back to the office. But anyway, is anybody making a play ahead of time? Any straddle plays today based on tomorrow?
That sounds like a no because of the incredible silence there.
Right. Right.
I did. Actually, I may play something. Hey, everyone.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Something we were just talking boomer crap the other day, talking about the TLT and how I thought, boy, that looked like it was going to go down. This is just a daily instrument that I never played before, but I think I am tomorrow. It's the TMV. It's the triple bearish on the 20 years. So if you think interest rates should go up, that should go up. So short-term trading, I may do that as a small portion just to see if it jumps.
Anyone know if 50 bips is priced in or if it's still 25?
Well, that's not to the 21st, I think, 22nd.
22nd.
Right, but is it...
Correct. I think 25 in, but I think 50 still may be a possibility, and that's what the markets were sniffing out. Go ahead, Hardy.
A lot can happen in 2 weeks, so I wouldn't really put any faith in the expected rate change until the week of the 19th or 20th.
Yeah.
So maybe save that play I was thinking about doing. Just sorry not to talk over you, but you think
Until something, unless, yeah, because something could happen during the testimony, which the market could infer one way or the other, whether or not they're correct.
That's what I was
For
implying.
me, the way I play this usually is wait till the day of, like 10 minutes before the press release to buy puts. And then when the press release starts, get out of my puts if they haven't already doubled, and then buy zero DTE calls, because that strategy has worked now the last 4 FOMC releases.
just in case you were wondering, so market's pricing in about a 70% chance of a 25 basis point increase. Oh, I thought the Hawks were supposed to pump the markets to 50 basis points. Oh,
50
this is
basis points
30%.
is bearish.
Say
Relative
that
to
again?
25. A 50 basis point hike is bearish relative to a 25 basis point hike.
Right, but they let all these Hawks go out and talk about that we need or pushing for bigger hikes.
I wouldn't know about that.
I mean, a lot of that is saber rattling. I mean, that is one of their
Well,
other tools. Is not
with-
just moving. They use their Fed speak to even if so. Yeah, even there's dissension. You're right. So some people want quarter, and some people want a half. It's not like they do it in exact science, but I think they also try to keep the markets, try to keep them off that sugar high that we've had the last 12 years a little bit. So I think that's why you have those guys that come out and hit the market over the head, even if it may not happen.
But with Brainerd out, isn't it more of a hawkish tone going forward? Because Brainerd's out. She was though.
Does it matter at this point?
Thank you. I was going to say, I think you're getting too minute with it. I wouldn't worry about it that much.
Maybe, yeah.
Yeah, it's okay though. No, I mean, good thoughts.
It's a good analysis. I won't disagree there. The issue is how many moneyed market participants are going to lean one way versus the other. Because at the end of the day, that's what moves markets.
Right. So going back to that guy that was doing the TMB play, are you just buying shares and holding on to this?
No, it's not something you want to hold on to. It's a leveraged play. So there's decay in it. So I may not even play it. And if I do, it may not be out until that 2 weeks, like Hardy had mentioned. So it seems like if there'd be any kind of a swing, just by what he's seen in recent history, tomorrow would not be the day to play a vehicle like that, whether you're selling puts or like myself, just buying that and a leveraged ETF to kind of have that document or not use that feeling to make some money, if you will. I'll wait.
Hey, you guys, there's somebody in the group selling sell option signals or whatever. Just so you know.
Okay. We will send them where the others belong.
Immediate ban.
In the shadow realm.
So I'm looking at Astra Space. I talked about how they're such a dog shit company. I'm just trying to buy like a couple thousand shares just in case it turns out that they're okay. So I'm still doing that. I'm still trying to buy shares at cheap prices for them. And I'm just going to hold them. I thought about buying options on it, but the strikes are just they're just garbage. So I'm just buying the shares, and I'm just going to hold them. Hopefully, Astra Space turns it around and starts successfully launching rockets, and it'll go to the moon. We'll see.
Didn't their last rocket launch go sideways, quite literally?
yeah, that was a bad one. They did have some successful launches before that, but yeah, their most recent one was bad, and they're also pretty beat down just from the general market conditions. So that did not help.
When asking about natural gas, seeing as the winter has been more mild, relatively speaking, than what was expected, coupled with the lower demand for natural gas from Europe than expected, it's easy to expect that demand for natural gas has gone down in the face of overwhelming supply. Therefore, natural gas prices down.
Yeah, oil was all over the place, right? 15% rip on Friday, 21% dip this morning.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
So I had my ass handed to me a couple times there, but at least I'm able to wheel the money back.
in general, with something like natural gas, oil, those generally contrarian, unpopular plays, if you start hearing places like here being very fond of them, it's probably a sign that they're getting a little higher than they're supposed to be. So just always something to keep in mind.
Oh, absolutely.
I'd even go so far to say as with most commodities, if you start hearing WallStreetBets being like, I love this commodity, it's probably pretty high.
Don't tell me Silver Gang's back.
Oh God, please. I thought we defended from against Silver Nation already.
We never left.
No, they all made their own sub, and now they get paid every time they convince their members to buy physical silver from their sponsors.
Squeeze incoming. Like, that's literally the heaviest manipulated market in the world. There's no squeeze.
Well, it was interesting. Didn't nickel squeeze not too long ago, and then the exchange
the London
actually
Stock Exchange reversed those trades, so there is no squeeze.
Yeah, I don't think people understand that, like, all commodity markets have mechanisms to prevent that exact shit ever since, what was it, Silver Tuesday in 1983 with the Hunt brothers?
It still happened in the London Stock Exchange, or London Commodity Precious Metals Exchange. I forget which one, but...
Oh, are they not able to back it out there? They're not able to, like...
They reversed the transactions, but it was the first time in the history they did so, which in turn caused the participants to lose a lot of faith in that exchange.
Well, fair.
Didn't they essentially use some really convoluted way to say it technically wasn't a real number, so they can't acknowledge it?
I don't know the reasoning, I just know the result. But short answer, a lot of firms added counterparty risk or increased the counterparty risk with the London Precious Metals Exchange.
And then JP Morgan got in trouble for actively manipulating the price of silver in the 2000s too. So it's just, I'm not saying I don't have silver and gold in real form. It's a small position. I'm old enough, come on.
Yes, you too can draw your own crayons.
I mean, I'm just saying, and if I was going to try to manipulate an asset, I would want something that has low circulating supply and is provably non-fungible. Like crypto, hypothetically.
Hypothetically, of course.
I mean, in terms of crypto, in the event Binance were to go the way of FTX, who would be affected? Is there an equivalent of Silvergate for Binance?
No,
Although
I think isn't
you might
Binance the biggest one?
I don't know if they're the biggest, but they're definitely the most well-known.
There were some other banks mentioned too.
Really? Oh, I'm just going to say, I'm really going to have to look into it. I'm sure there's different banks that are directly lending in that with Binance pretty close, so I'll figure it out.
Basically, I have trouble believing FTX operated in a vacuum.
It's unlikely that. I mean, I think there's common consensus that everyone's operating in kind of a shady manner, but FTX, what was different about them is that they blew up really quickly, as opposed to Binance, which I think was founded like 2 years prior. And so they've had a lot more time and a lot more Bitcoin bull run up to, if they did make any mistakes, kind of absorb and come back from them.
Correct, but it's unclear to what extent Binance, in an effort to support the higher yields as part of their staking product, was able to truly make up all that money from the trading fees that the exchange generated versus making risky bets on Luna likes.
And we discussed, is there going to be like a third or a fourth bank? We did last week. So, and I apologize, I don't have the tickers. I know someone else had mentioned them. So if they want to throw them up in the chat for us, that'd be great. So there are other banks that look like they haven't quite yet fallen of the way of Silvergate, if there's still more fire where there's smoke, right, Hardy? I think is what you're looking at. May not even have to be just with Binance. It could be just the industry as a whole, correct?
I'm of the opinion FTX got caught Not that they are the only, not because they're the only ones doing it. They were just the ones doing it the most egregiously. To say none of the other exchanges are doing it is a little naive.
Yeah, the
doesn't
one thing I
Binance-
will say that Binance.
I thought Binance
Oh, I
had
was
like a
going to say the one thing
1-to-1.
Binance does have going for it is that they say that, buddy. We don't know that to be true. But also keep in mind now left the crypto business, all of Binance's books were so messed up. So that's not a good sign. But what I will say that Binance have going for it is Binance's $2.3 billion stake, because Binance had invested in FTX, and SBF bought back those shares for $2.3 billion using customer money a couple months before FTX blew up. So in theory, Binance is sitting pretty with being paid off by FTX for their ownership interest.
Huh. Well, let's just hope they didn't pay in FTT tokens or FTX tokens. But that's probably speaks a lot to Binance's shrewdness. Like, they are the game. I was just looking up briefly, like what APR they were offering, and it seems like it used to be as high as 20 or 30%. Now it's as low as 3% or 3.15%. So they've either dialed it in significantly, or I'm looking in the wrong places. Though I'm not sure to what extent this is just, them taking your funds and staking them on chain and getting whatever rewards the chain rewards you with.
Yeah, that's what it is. I think at least for Coinbase and Ethereum, the on-chain staking is like at least 100 bips higher than what they're paying out, but you can find liquidity with the Coinbase staked Ethereum too by converting to their CBF coin, and then you can sell. So they take care of the staking requirements and the uptime of your nodes and stuff like that, and they take a percentage of the staking yield as a cut.
All right, neat. Well, let's not spend too much time on crypto, but that was interesting conversation. I did want to shout out Lordstown or Ride. It was a big meme stock around here back in mid-2021, and its earnings are, I think they were this morning, and no one's talked about them. So I'm really proud of you guys. Like, we've come a long way.
Well, they've also created many bag holders, judging by the precipitous drop from 2021.
Yeah, I was going to say, if they had earnings, maybe we'd talk about it.
They did have earnings this morning. 40%...
Positive earnings?
No, 40% lower than expected profits and 97% lower than expected revenue. Estimated revenue was 7.15 million against 194,000 reported. So those ride or die gang aren't riding anymore, as far as I can tell.
That I think the big drop you referred to in 2021 was based off the Hindenburg report, right?
I'm sure Hindenburg helped, but I'm also seeing a lot of equity raises throughout 2022, so which diluted the shares even further.
Okay, yes. Again, also does not help the fact that they have less than $1 million in revenue in a quarter and a $250 million market cap.
I'm guessing they need to raise capital to keep that factory running.
Well, what a
Hey,
world.
Hardy, real quick, I'm not sure if you've been following the potential ban of TikTok in the United States starting to gain steam in the Senate. Wondering if that, as much as I hate Disgracebook and everything that they stand for, I'm wondering if that could be a catalyst for, I say Disgracebook, it's actually Meta, Meta going forward, if in fact TikTok were ever to be taken off the table. I feel like I don't like what the People's Republic of China does with the data. TikTok, I'm not naive to the fact that look the same thing. I prefer for the algorithm to be controlled in the United States versus overseas. I guess is my thoughts there. But wanted to hear your thoughts on if that were to go forward, and what kind of potential for Meta, kind of forcing, closing the door on TikTok, forcing.
So let's play this out. TikTok has however many tens or hundreds of millions of monthly active users in the US. Of those users, how many of them also are on Instagram, right? So in the event of TikTok's, if you're trying to model this out, you need to figure out in the event of TikTok's demise, what percent of users who use TikTok who do not use Instagram will start using Instagram. And I'm of the opinion that number is not particularly large. So I don't think
Right.
you'll have a meaningful impact on Meta's earnings.
Monthly active users wise, correct. But the amount of time the eyeballs are spent on the app, if this were to go through, I feel like that would increase. Also kind of pushing ad dollars over to Facebook and maybe Google as well, and some of the other tech companies that, I feel like a lot of these earnings calls that I've listened to, Google's a perfect example. Their ad spend is way, the ad revenue they're generating, is way down, and nobody wants to talk about it. But it's TikTok. A lot of people are spending time on TikTok. So I mean, that's my thought. I hear your argument as well that monthly active users aren't going to change, because you're right. I agree with you. Everybody has that app on their phone, but the amount of time spent on the app, I feel like would increase, which would help generate more ad revenue.
Sure. So what's the incremental increase in time spent on Instagram, which is the closest TikTok equivalent at Meta, versus TikTok, right? So again, let's assume the overlap is 50 million users. If the 50 million users who are no longer spending 2 hours a day on TikTok spend it on Instagram instead, that's 100 million hours more consumption time. So what does 100 million hours of consumption or feed scrolling translate to ads? And I think it's a relatively small number.
Is it? Okay. Admittedly, I don't know as much about that.
But that's how I'm approaching it. You see what I'm saying?
Okay.
I also suspect that's already priced in. So in the event TikTok is banned and the ban is enforced and doesn't go through the courts, it'll be a sell the news event for Meta, because Meta will then report slightly increased metrics because of the TikTok refugees, but it won't be nearly as high as expected.
Good info. I mean, I agree that it looks like, again, I hate, when I say I hate Facebook, I mean, there's no one more that hates what it's done. I mean, there's certain aspects of social media. I'm a fan
I
of
say
Reddit,
this with
obviously.
love. We don't care what you feel about Facebook. We care what people with money are willing to do relative to the price.
Absolutely, but that affects my thesis sometimes. So, yeah, good stuff. I appreciate your feedback. And yeah, I agree with you that it certainly could be baked in as well, because Facebook has, year to date, they've gone up significantly. I think after their earnings report, I remember seeing a blurb that they ran about 20%, if I'm not mistaken.
They did, but the reason why they ran up during their earnings wasn't because the earnings was particularly good. It's because they authorized themselves to buy back $40 billion worth of shares.
Was it a buyback? Yeah.
Now, keep in mind it was an authorization. They did not necessarily follow through yet.
Okay.
And it's the year of efficiency. You said efficiency like 16 times or something.
Correct, and that efficiency is coming from removing the M2s who have 3 M1s reporting them into another M2, into a D1, which, I mean, I've seen some of the org charts at Meta, and I agree, some of that needs to really go. Especially the people who are guilty of what's called internally empire building. Because in Facebook or in Meta, the only way you can advance as a manager is to get more scope. Scope is defined as larger and more complex projects, and the easiest way to do that is to convince higher ups to give you more headcount for that scope, whether or not it's actually needed. So yeah, if you go to Team Blind, and read up on this, you'll see it's quite the phenomenon.
Dude, you're an
That's
encyclopedia.
like
Thank you for your knowledge.
Of course.
That's got to be one of the most retarded methods of structuring a company that I've ever heard.
That happens at a lot of places.
Well, it's.
I mean, I'm just
Meta,
saying, like, yeah,
but
it's pretty bad.
It also happens at Microsoft and Google. Netflix, not so much. Amazon is unique in that each org operates as an independent team. So technically, the new products you see on AWS, they all have the teams behind those products have AWS budget against which they can build those products. So it's operating as a conglomerate of interrelated, interdependent companies.
Yeah, it happens at Big Four as well.
Oh, I have no doubt. But I think that's rolled up to each partner or managing partner, not at the org level. Basically, if a partner is responsible for bringing in like Azure cloud consulting revenue, then yeah, they're their own silo. There's probably no pollination or limited cross-pollination with the guy responsible for accounting auditing.
Right, but there's also like gazillions of those sub-orgs within a given line of business. Like that line of business for audit versus tax or whatever, it could be, 50,000 people.
It just strikes me that it's like this is probably one of the more problematic things in an organizational structure, and Meta said we're going to make that our official policy. Like, it seems like that could have some blowback.
Well, I think maybe the real cost is because each of those headcounts at Meta is going to be probably very expensive.
Well,
you got the San Francisco effect, and then you also have the engineer effect.
Keep in mind
Casino open.
Thank you. Keep in mind that Meta, in spite of the layoffs, still is net positive in terms of headcount growth relative to 2019. And that's the same applies to all of the Fangmula companies. So they're still growing, just not as fast as expected. So think of this as taking your foot off the gas pedal while going downhill. Your speed is increasing, but slower than before. We're not yet at the bottom.
Yeah, they said they were only going to spend like $9 million a year versus like 15 a year on the metaverse too. So yeah, they were chopping a bunch of stuff on the last call. So
Probably 9 billion, not 9 million.
No, I said billion. Sorry if I wasn't clear.
All right.
It is billion. That's the scary thing.
I wouldn't call it scary, but I am curious to know why Meta is back up near 190s. Because WhatsApp pledges to be more transparent. So the risk of being shut out of Europe is going down. Makes sense.
I just love this redemption story for Meta. Probably because I started buying it when it was really cheap.
Oh, I agree. I wish I started buying in when it went back over 100. I should have paid more attention in the 90s.
What did it IPO at? Like $20 or $30? I forgot.
It IPO'd, I think, around $40, dropped to 20 in the 2 months following, and then it's gone up ever since.
God, I remember all the naysayers saying that it'll never work on mobile and how hard of a transition it would be for mobile, and they were completely wrong. Oh my God.
Well, the only reason why it worked is because no one else had the cash to hire an entire mobile division in 1 quarter. Keep in mind there was a massive amount of hiring for mobile experts when the price was in the 20s.
Gotcha. What do you think about the TikTok thing gaining steam in the Senate? You see that coming to fruition, or?
I see that as another barb in the salvo against China and this current diplomatic game of 3D chess with regard to Ukraine. I see it as we will compromise by letting TikTok. The way I see it, negotiators will say we will compromise by letting TikTok run on US not banning TikTok on the US in exchange for exporting rare earths, or in exchange for not attacking Taiwan, or in exchange for not providing military aid to Russia. But my point is, the TikTok angle, I suspect, is a bargaining chip in a much bigger game.
Absolutely agree with you there. And I'm tired of the geopolitical bullshit. I wish that we could all just get along. We need each other.
I
We need
wouldn't go
China.
that far. I prefer the strife because it adds volatility, which I sell.
Okay, well, good. I'm glad that you're profiting from that, Hardy, and I'm signing off because the bell rang. But thank you for your input as always, brother.
All right, take care. And Leap and Leopard, China has banned Facebook and other Meta apps in order to allow their domestic social media platform to to flourish. And that's partly what happened in the early 2000s. The state banks offered lots of money to these tech entrepreneurs in China who used to work
Good
as like
afternoon.
senior level product managers in US-based tech companies. And so it allowed for a relative brain drain to allow the development of these kinds of products under the thumb of the CCP. I forget how many C's. CCP?
Sorry, did you say that you you sell volatility, but I think all your plays were long puts?
That's a bit of a misnomer between the folks who follow me on WallStreetBets and everything else that I do. The long plays that I have in my portfolio make up about 35% right now of my invested capital. The rest of it are short plays. So generally speaking, the cash I'm willing to risk on long options plays represents the excess return that I have relative to SPY from my short options plays. Does that make sense?
A little bit.
Okay, let me clarify. If SPY goes up 10% and I'm up 20%, I'm willing to risk 5 points of that difference between the 20% increase and the 10% increase on speculative long options plays.
Right. So you're recycling the put premium into long puts.
Not necessarily like that. It's more like the excess profits relative to SPY I'm reinvesting in speculative long options plays.
Sure.
Well, this might be a good moment to say that I'm currently transcribing yesterday's talk, and just about give me an hour after this talk ends, and I'll have this one transcribed, and it'll all be in the Discord for you to go back and search if you missed something or don't want to spend the time to scrub through YouTube and check timestamps.
Should be using Whisper Opinion?
I am, actually, and it was surprisingly easy to set up.
Yeah, use the large model on Google Colab, and it's incredible how easily it can pick out the plays when I'm rattling them off.
I want to do a experiment where I compare all the models and see what it changes or what's different in them. I don't know if you've already done that, actually. I'm sure someone has.
In English, there are substantial differences. In other languages, depends.
Interesting. All right. Well, I'm using the medium model right now, but I'll look at using the large. I just didn't want to take too much time. It is.
Sure. So the file was created as I said last week, but we are having some problem after we installed the FTPS on the server machine, and the file system rights got all messed up, and we are unable to place the file by hand on the folder that needs
Alex, you talking to us?
using the file broker system. So we are fixing that, and I hope
this mic's been open for a while.
Okay, so I don't know what company he's working for, but if their file broker system is down, maybe time for puts.
Yes, time for puts. Anyway.
Oh no. All right, well, moving on.
Looking at taking profits on Troika. It's now up 20% on the day.
Oh, someone is actually. So it's interesting you mentioned that, because earlier I was looking at the comments. There's like maybe like 5 or 6 people who all had their comments removed, because this is like TRKA is like a $30 million stock in terms of market cap. So they were all getting auto removed, but I thought they were just like a whole bunch of shills. And I was going to say, oh God, I was going to like point and laugh at them and say, oh, you should short whatever they're selling. But then I looked at it, and their revenue is actually like 3 times their market cap. I haven't actually looked at it that long, but you want to give your kind of thesis, Scald?
Well, my thesis was just based on the number of sustained mentions across various social media platforms. The last time I saw something sustained for this long was Bed Bath & Beyond. So that's, it's awful.
In other words, hype.
I'm so
that
sorry.
Was his DD.
Are they X-SPAC or D-SPAC? Because I'm seeing warrants for this ticker as well.
Opinion. Someone asked Scald earlier, and sorry, Scald, but you don't even know what business they do you? Right? I mean, just clearly.
No, it just appeared on my screener, and it just kept showing up on my screener, and then it just kept showing up on my screener, and then finally I was like, okay, whatever. It's been here every trading day for over 2 weeks now. So like I'm going in, which was like on Thursday. I was like, okay, fine. That being said, they don't have a terrible they don't look terrible. Looking at their finances and stuff like that, it could be worse. I still don't like their negative PE ratio. That's pretty bad. I mean, to be a tech company with a negative PE ratio in 2023 is probably not a great place to be.
Is that why we're seeing all these? Oh, go ahead.
Oh no, go ahead. Opinion.
Well, no, I was just going to dig into the topic of like tech companies that are losing money. Like, sure, interest rates are going to be high and going to be high for quite some time, but it's like suddenly all these companies don't seem to be investing for the long term. And I understand the idea that interest rates reduce the present value of future cash flows, blah, blah, blah. And so, anything that's going to pay out in like 3, 5, 10 years is going to be, valued significantly lower now. But I don't know. Do you guys think that tech companies are overdoing it and shooting their long-term growth in the foot?
Doesn't matter. It's all for the execs' golden parachutes.
I mean, I think it does matter. I think once we get to a place, which I think we are approaching now, where we know kind of where the interest rate range is going to be, that way the business can plan for it. I think there's more uncertainty than having a higher interest rate is more of a business risk. Now, granted, the people that are just throwing hundreds of millions at a business idea that's never produced a profit, yeah, goodbye. But the people that are like right on the cusp, you can still be successful in those times.
Yeah, I mean, I would say if you look out over the next 12 months, it's a crapshoot whether, we'll be at, 5% or maybe 6%, right? It's conceivable that the Fed could continue to raise rates, but very slowly. So if that's the case, NPV calculations and discounted cash flows, they necessarily require, a pretty long time horizon to play out for your sort of valuation to, materialize usually. If that's the case and you don't exactly know if it's a 5 or a 6, it's really hard to place bets, So I've got to think a lot of people are sort of not willing to stick their neck out for a company that's losing money or, not really in the realm of profitability yet. I think when rates normalize, people will be able to put those discounted cash flow models to work a little more reliably, and you'll have people, more confident about growth.
Yeah, absolutely. And the difference between 5 and 6% is actually massive. So, fair point. Which, taken differently, means there's a whole bunch of businesses that can exist at 5%, but can't exist at 6.
I agree with that. That is true. And you're right. There still is a big unknown. And I'm not a fan of throwing money at people that are losing money right now. So I agree with the overall sentiment, though. So.
For those of you who are curious about my short options positions, as a quick example, I sold on Friday the GameStop March 10 1850 puts for 43 cents each. They're currently at 33 cents. So I've already realized, 20% of my hypothetical maximum gains over the weekend, relatively small risk. And that's against, 42 cents against $18.50 in collateral. That's 2% that I expect to make over the course of this week.
Actually, maybe that's a good segue. I sometimes do these very short-term options plays. They might be, 45 days out or 2 or 3 months out. That might be on the long side or the short side. But if it goes my favor in like 2 or 3 days and I make, 20%, I have this tendency to get out of the trade because I think, 20% over 3 days, that's pretty good, annualized rate of return. And maybe I should just take this because it's sort of easy. Is that maybe because 2022 was so hard and I've gotten scared, or do you use a similar metric where if something goes, in your favor really, really fast, you're like, well, the time value, maybe what's left on this opportunity versus what I might be able to find elsewhere, it's enough that I can pull the ripcord.
It depends on if there's a better use for the capital. So sure, you made 20% of the maximum. You made 20% of your, let's say, 10-day expected profits in one day. Is there a place, if you were to exit now, that would achieve theoretically similar returns in a different contract or security?
Right.
Net of commissions, fees, and spread.
I mean, I tend to think that, the core holdings of my portfolio might be, where if I put excess money that it would do well. But I think that the whole time value question is the real challenge because, I could tell you that, one or two of the assets I have, I believe in 5 years will be worth significantly more. But, on an annualized rate of return, it's not going to match, 20% in 2 or 3 days. So it's probably, I don't know. Do you recycle your options plays into more options plays, or do you ever recycle your options profits into like a long-term position?
Any large amounts of excess capital that I have, I usually use it to buy websites, and that I then flip. So like, as a rule, websites sell for, let's call it 30 months of their monthly profit. So if the monthly profit's $1,000 a month, and I can increase the monthly profit to $2,000 a month, I can effectively get 3 years of or 2.5 years of revenue up front. And I just keep rinsing and repeating using the team that I've built along with the skills and tools that I've put together. That way, I'm able to give myself a little more stability in terms of riding out the swings in the market.
And so with ChatGPT and the rise of other models, how has your team changed?
They edit now. They don't really write.
Interesting. Fair. Oh, did someone cut out, or someone trying to say something?
Yeah.
Are you like sitting on a toilet having some trouble there, or?
No.
Ghost?
No. Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you for your bet.
I thought crayons were safe to eat. What the hell?
They did say non-toxic.
On the options things, I'll do that, man. I'll take 20% and I'll let the money sit there. I don't care.
Yeah, I mean, now, your sweep account and your brokerage probably paying you a pretty hefty rate just to sit there, do nothing.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Wait,
What would you like to share with us?
Oh, thank God! I don't know what the fuck was happening. Did any of you guys hear about what's going on with Jack Daniels in Tennessee?
You enlighten us.
Yeah, didn't there there's some sort of fungus or something that's invading like it's what is getting in the air or something? It's bothering people, or it's getting on their property from like it's like a byproduct of the distilling process or something. Is that right?
Yeah, that's going on. Yeah, that's what's happening. And apparently, Jack Daniels is in the process of actually being sued. So I was wondering if that's going to probably affect the stock or not. What that is if they have one.
Is Jack Daniels publicly traded? It's its own ticker?
Do we have a ticker?
It's news to me.
Is it toxic?
No, apparently it's like annoying. I guess it gets on stuff and discolors it or whatever.
I wouldn't be too worried about it.
I'm sorry, what is the ticker for Jack Daniels? What?
If it's not JACK, I'll be disappointed. But I don't think it's publicly traded.
Exactly, it's not. That's why I wasn't sure what we're talking about here. I mean,
No, it is. I found it. I had to do a little digging. So I was right, but I couldn't think of the name off the top of my head. It is owned by Brown Forman Corporation. And yeah, they are publicly traded.
Ticker?
B as in boy, F as in friend, B as in boy. And I've never invested with them. I've invested with Diageo. That's how I found them, just if anyone's wondering. So I don't know how much it is. I don't know if it's a liability. A lot of times when we read those news stories, they're already days, if not weeks old. So without knowing a lot more, I'm just going to blindly say it's probably priced in.
It's a few days old, as far as I remember.
I haven't read it or seen anything, so I mean, anyone else can speak to it.
Stock's up 0.5% today.
Yeah, so it doesn't seem like it's bad news, or I mean, I'm not saying it's good for the people that live there or anything, but I'm not sure how much that's moved the price. And from what I know too, I think it's a conglomerate. It's not just Jack Daniels.
So I read a little bit on this, and I read that back in the day that this is how they caught moonshiners during Prohibition. The police would look for this mold. So this isn't anything new. Jack Daniels is an old company, so I wouldn't be too worried about it.
That's interesting trivia. Thank you.
Yeah, apparently it can be handled by adding some additive to the barrels or something, but Jack Daniels is resisting because they're worried about it changing the taste. Might honestly be a little bit of a PR move by them, showing how, like, I don't know, traditional or whatever, or how artisanal they are, something.
Artisanal mold.
Also known as cheese.
You'd be surprised how many of your daily products are made with mold.
I mean, so is yogurt, right? Just spoiled milk.
Yeah, almost like
not really.
Anyhow, it's not moving that much, but I don't know if anyone saw that Norfolk Southern had another train wreck. Nothing toxic this time. In Ohio again. Stock's barely moving, so I don't think it's that much of a newsmaker, but I know we've talked about it. So it's another event. Could it be long-term bearish? Maybe, but the price isn't moving that much. Any thoughts?
Ohio is a train wreck. Just saying.
Hey now. Hey now.
I used to live there.
Wait, I thought Norfolk Southern was down in the southern states.
No, the train tracks go up north too. So they wrecked in Ohio twice in the last month, and 3 times if you go back 11 years. They actually wrecked in Columbus, right by the campus one time. Big fireball at 3 in the morning. All the drunk college students love that.
So it makes you wonder, what's with all the recent derailings if they haven't had one in the last, you said 11 years?
Short answer is they're not newsworthy.
Correct, yeah. Like the one that just happened in Springfield, they're saying no toxic, but with the sensitivity around it recently, they're going to be more headline driven.
It also shows that it's a slow news day if a derailment is your headline.
They're under the microscope too. Any little fuck up they make they're gonna get blasted.
Well, if you ask me, they should get blasted because Norfolk Southern is a shitty company. In my eyes, anyway.
All right. Well, apart from stock talk, I mean, what are you guys looking forward to for the next week?
Well, I wanted to follow up on what I was talking about earlier in regards to CrowdStrike, and so it's kind of come down off of the highs that had to be open. It's still up, but not up as much as before. And I'm still working on the basis that with the down news this morning and with earnings coming out after close, that the stock's going to be highly volatile over the next couple of days. And so, though I can't tell for sure what is going to happen at close, whether it's going to swing up or down tomorrow, I don't see how it can stay where it's at within the range. And so I'm wondering what you guys would think about an Iron Condor.
You can make money with it. You could also lose money with it.
You can't do that with anything, right? I mean,
Yeah, but the probability of make versus lose is different, along with the size.
do you have an opinion offhand, or?
Not specifically.
I mean, I went in. Like I said, I went in with I went and did my 14 covered calls. I picked up like $5,000 off of that this morning, which is not bad for my account. So like I'm doing my trade, but I'm just trying to figure out, for other types of things that would be in a similar position in the future. Like they tend to be expensive, right? Unless you can get the range pretty tight. So like something's got high volatility, founders tend to get more expensive or a better deal.
I just bought the weekly calls at the open 132 strike. I think you were the guy that was talking about CrowdStrike earlier. I mean, I feel like they're the clear number two. Maybe you could expound on that to Palo Alto, but I have them as number two.
Well, yeah, because I own a bunch of the stock. I got it as an employee in the company back when I used to work there, so I watch it pretty closely. And so I think the cost basis really should. I think it should be much higher than it currently is, but I have my own personal biases, obviously. But like I said, the volatility has been so high, so I just don't think it'll stay right where it's at right now. And it just seems like it's good to call out that something that plays on not staying right where it's at. It's a good recommendation to make. Like coming in the open when it was up 6%, I felt confident saying, saying, hey, cover calls here, or a credit spread at that spot's probably a good idea. But now that it's given up most of those gains, that seems less. It seems like there's less meat on the bone now. Did you say a 132 strike?
$132. Yeah, I just bought calls this morning.
Oh, so you're thinking that it's going to shoot up more today after close?
Yeah, I'm hedging a little bit. I own shares. I bought not at the top, but it was over 200 where I purchased. I'm by no means selling my shares. I mean, I'm going to hold. I think that's just with cyber attacks becoming more prevalent. I think that's the direction that we're going. I sound like a broken record, but I have them as number two in space. And yeah, so I rarely play earnings, but I feel like it's due for a bounce. And part of my thesis there was I listened to the Palo Alto call and came away feeling pretty bullish about cybersecurity.
Yeah, it's been a good space for all the players. And I do think in the long term it's going up as well, but it's been running up for the last few days. So I think there's just as much chance that it's going to shoot down for a little bit after earnings as it does to shoot up.
Certainly possible.
That's why I was actually going with the suggestion, me personally, where I was doing the cover calls at 140, because I don't think it'll shoot that far up. So there's plenty of breathing room there if it goes up. But then if it comes back down, there's just free money off the table.
Yeah, we'll see. I'll be listening. I know that you will too, brother.
Yeah. Yep. That's true.
I'll be picking the kids up at the bus stop, and I'll be watching the ticker.
Daddy's cursing again. It must be a bad day in the market.
Dude, that's funny that you say that. They know about all my vices, like the gambling. I mean, I'm in Delaware, so I have to drive across the state line, which is like a 5-minute drive to get into Pennsylvania. So my kids are young, but unfortunately they know all about stocks and all about parlays, and I guess it's not bad that they know about stocks, because that's part of their college fund and stuff like that.
Oh yeah, I think the more you talk about it with anything with kids, but especially with money, even if it's over the top of their head, if they gain 3% of what you're talking about, you're going to be so set when they're older. You know what I mean? Keep it going, right?
Yeah, I hope that they're gleaming the good things. Not the parlays are bad, but the stock stuff, I'm glad that they're showing an interest in it. But it's funny, man. It really is.
I know. No, it's done now. But my daughter has seen me get off the phone with the lawyers before, the accountant, and I'm pissy. Yeah, I mean, she's literally said to me the last month, "Being an adult's hard, isn't it?" I'm like, yeah.
Yeah, enjoy it while you're young, kid.
That reminds me, over the weekend, I lost power, so I went and got a hotel room for the weekend, and I saw this I turned the TV on, and I saw this infomercial for DraftKings, and it was so bad. I'm like, there's no way DraftKings put this out as an ad, and it was their ad, their commercial. It was like a late night.
I've seen, dude, those are terrible.
So what they're doing is they're making those, especially for this new states like Ohio that's coming online, and they're bombarding the hell out of us here. And you're probably in a state where if it hasn't become legal recently, it probably has been. But yeah, they run full half-hour spots. It's pretty sad.
And it's so bad comparatively when you look at whatever, it's a commercial for gambling, but the FanDuel ads that I see compared to the DraftKings advertisements are like in a completely different spectrum.
I just haven't had cable for the last 10 years, so I haven't seen an infomercial in a while.
Yeah, well, I get them on football games and college hoops, but that's it's so bad.
Does anybody have thoughts about the Fed tomorrow?
They're probably going to have to admit that they can't control inflation.
That's sort of been my thinking too. I actually closed out most of my spreads at the end of last week with the idea that I'd sit on cash until the end of this week and start buying new spreads after that.
And we talked about this a little bit earlier. Basically, I had an idea for a play, but Hardy said wait until the actual Fed meeting later on this month. He thinks there'd be more volatility or more movement, easier to, I don't want to say time, but I think he thought there was going to be more juice in a couple weeks versus tomorrow, was the sentiment I got from him. I'm not saying what your idea is wrong. That's the way he illustrated it when I asked.
Well, that's a couple weeks of room just to get something in and waiting for that, right? I mean, depending on things going in the garbage tomorrow or not.
I mean, there's always a chance, and I feel you. The markets, I feel like the market's kind of on pins and needles, so any news could be very volatile tomorrow. But Hardy didn't. He thought, wait, enter your position like the day of the actual Fed meeting for that kind of particular play.
Yeah,
I'm not
definitely.
decided. I haven't decided yet. I may do a little play tomorrow myself, just so. But just interesting talk we had earlier.
My thinking is that if Powell spooks the markets tomorrow, he just says the wrong thing and spooks them, then, there might be a good opportunity to get some good movement in, right? Get in and get out in the next couple weeks before the next meeting. But then again, unemployment's also on Friday, so. I'm sorry, not Friday, Thursday.
There's one jobs or jolts. I think it was Wednesday, and then the big ones on Friday. Correct. So those may even be more market moving than his statement, because again, it's not an actual meeting. There's more the jobs data, and there's one more inflation number that comes out before the actual interest rate decision meeting. So I think to kind of follow through with Hardy's thesis, it may not be as important tomorrow. But you're right, you could have some opportunity if you have something you've been looking at and you want to get in on some weakness. It's always the risk you're willing to take,
Yeah, I'm gonna look around. I forgot that jobs was Friday. That kind of,
to me at least, I think that's the larger one, because there's earnings this week too, but it's like probably not any of the favorites in this chat.
I really like to trade between events rather than out of them. I tend to be on the sell side more often, and trade off of the concept that most people are overreacting. So I like to trade in between the events rather than across them. I can't get in and out in the same, because it'll be the same. It'll be the same week. So you got to carry over from the 10th if you buy it this week. So I might sit out till Monday, I think.
Yeah, I was gonna say you have to do your own math and your own triangulation. I think. I mean, they're good questions, but I don't know what. I'm not gonna tell you what to buy or when to sell.
Yeah, I think this will be an easy week. All you gotta do is stay out of trouble.
Shit, look at that spy go.
SPY, for those not looking, is up 57 basis points, and a lot of that is on the past minute or two, maybe 5 minutes. I got curious because I was transcribing the audio for these Reddit talks, which you'll be able to find in the Discord. But I was curious to see whether how many jobs had been replaced, and I haven't quite found anything yet. But what I have noticed is that there's barely any job postings out there for transcription jobs, and I'm just assuming that's entirely because either one, people farm them out to agencies who then use combination of AI and human to do all that, or there's just everyone's realized that AI is the way. It's very, very accurate, and it has been for quite some time, since 2019. I don't know if there's any publicly traded companies around this, and my guess would be probably no, because it's not something you do for a long time, and it's not something that particularly costs a ton of money.
I think it's both, depending on the importance of what you're transcribing, right? If it's media content, then you throw it at the bot and let it take care of it, and it's not a big problem. Like YouTube transcription, stuff like that. But it's something where the individual words manage or matter. I think that's where you're still seeing transcription services in play, and they're out there. There's plenty of them to choose from.
Google made a bunch of money off of it back in the day with the reCAPTCHA.
Yeah, there's Mechanical Turk too. Used to be used for that, but now there's plenty of companies that do it in bulk. Human bulk. They'll run it through the bot first, and then they'll have it proofread by humans, and they sell it as a human transcription service.
Is it time to load puts on Carvana?
I haven't looked, but I know in the past couple of weeks, people brought up how expensive the IV was on them. That's why they weren't entering into it. I think they've got a little bit more time than some of the other doomed companies. I think they're still going bankrupt, but have you looked at the puts, or you're just asking generally?
Well, the price is really far up, and I feel that it's about to bounce against the 200 moving average on the 30-minute chart.
Guess no one really has a strong opinion on it. I still think they're doomed to fail, but to me, it's a risky play just from what I've heard on the pricing. But
yeah, but man, I still bet on them failing. I guess I'm gonna go puts on them.
I hope you triple on them.
Thank you,
They
Cancer.
shot up pretty good a couple weeks ago.
No, you're right. It did. It was in that low teens up to almost 16.
I think it went all the way to 19, that motherfucker. Azul doubled like 50% way before we even got to trade anything.
Oh snap! See, you guys got to look at the stocks that nobody's talking about.
I like CN a lot. I feel like that might be a good long play.
So what aren't the stocks we should be? Opinion. If you got a list, that'd be great. If you want to share.
Look, I told you guys pre-market when you couldn't trade them. Like, I don't see what the problem is. No, I'm kidding. What attracts you to Cien? Sienna, CIEN. Nothing. All right, excellent. No, I don't know. I was just looking at all the earnings, the highly discussed earnings that we haven't mentioned here. Nizol and Sienna were at the top of the list. Nothing nobody here can do, Otherwise, it just ends up we're talking about Silvergate and all the others over and over again.
No, No, I mean, your point on CN, I see that the 50 is crossing the 200 on the upwards on the 30-minute chart. I'm really feeling bullish about it.
All right, running into some problems uploading the transcription, but I'll get that figured out at least for tomorrow. And I'll, of course, include today's transcription there as well. So if you guys can go back, take a look, read up on the main themes, tickers that were discussed, and maybe I'll even post a little bit of a summary at the top, either in Discord or here tomorrow, in the comments, so that it's easy for you guys to find and read. If that sounds all good to you, then I think I'll wrap it up here. And thank you all for joining us this fine morning. And I hope the rest of your trades go as well as Azul has in the past hour or so.
Thanks, Opinion. Have a good day.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
SPY up 60 plus basis points now, 67 basis points. So good stuff. Hope your portfolio stays green, and see you all tomorrow.
Thanks, Opinion.
Cheers. Bye.